In the spring of 1943, as the U.S. Army expanded its airborne forces, a new regiment was born at Fort Benning, Georgia, the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment. Under the command of Colonel George the Fires Millett, Jr., the 507th would become one of the most courageous and battle-tested parachute units of the Second World War. Trained for deep penetration airborne assaults, the 507th's mission was clear: to jump into enemy territory, disrupt, destroy, and hold until relieved, no matter the odds. The men who joined the 507th were all volunteers. They were young, confident, and restless, drawn by the promise of adventure and the challenge of airborne warfare. At Fort Benning, they endured brutal training. They learned to live off the land, fight in small units, and think like commandos. Every man had to pass demanding physical tests and 5 successful parachute jumps before earning his wings. By late 1943, the regiment was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division, under Major General Matthew B. Ridgway, a commander who believed paratroopers had to be as disciplined as they were daring. Under his leadership, the 507th prepared for its first test, Normandy. On the night of June 5, 1944, the men of the 507th boarded their C-47 transports in England. Their destination, the Cotentin Peninsula behind Utah Beach, as part of the great airborne spearhead of Operation Overlord. Their objective was to seize bridges over the Douve River, secure the causeways leading inland from the beaches, and block German reinforcements from reaching the coast. But as the Armada crossed the English Channel, everything went wrong. Heavy anti-aircraft fire and thick clouds scattered the formations. Many pilots, disoriented and under fire, released their paratroopers far from the designated drop zones. The 507th was thrown into chaos. Men landed in flooded fields, rivers, and marshes. Dozens drowned under the weight of their equipment. Others found themselves surrounded by enemy troops within minutes of landing. What was meant to be a coordinated airborne assault became a series of desperate, isolated skirmishes across the Normandy countryside. Yet, in that confusion, courage prevailed. Small groups of 507th paratroopers gathered in the dark, forming impromptu units led by sergeants and lieutenants. They struck German positions wherever they could find them, cutting roads, ambushing convoys, and holding crossroads against overwhelming odds. Near Grain, one isolated group of about 180 paratroopers made a stand that would become legend. For 6 days, they fought off repeated attacks by German SS troops, defending the small village until nearly all were killed or captured. The civilians who helped them paid with their lives. Though scattered and bloodied, the 507th had tied down thousands of German troops who never reached the beaches, helping ensure the success of D-Day. By June 9th, survivors of the 507th had regrouped near St. Mary-Église, joining elements of the 505th and 508th. Colonel Millett himself had been captured, and command fell to Lieutenant Colonel Edson Raff, one of America's original paratroopers from the North Africa campaign. Under Raff's command, the 507th fought on, clearing villages, repelling counterattacks, and holding ground until relieved by seaborne forces. When they finally withdrew from Normandy, the regiment had suffered over 1,500 casualties, nearly half its strength, but they had accomplished their mission. The beachheads were secure, and the German counteroffensive had failed. After Normandy, the 507th was transferred from the 82nd Airborne to the 17th Airborne Division, commanded by Major General William M. Miley. In September 1944, they stood down during Operation Market Garden, refitting and training for the next major campaign. That came in December, when the Germans launched their last great offensive, the Battle of the Bulge. Deployed to Belgium as part of Operation Varsity preparations, the 507th was rushed into the line near Neufchâteau and Flamierge to stem the German advance. In freezing conditions, they fought like veterans, holding key positions against superior forces and buying time for reinforcements to arrive. Their discipline and courage helped stabilize the northern shoulder of the Bulge. Then came Operation Varsity on March 24, 1945, the final great airborne operation of the war, the crossing of the Rhine River into Germany. In broad daylight, the 507th jumped into heavy flak and enemy fire near Wesel, Germany. Within minutes of landing, they were in fierce combat. Paratroopers cleared towns, destroyed artillery positions, and captured hundreds of prisoners. Despite losing over 230 men in a single day, the operation succeeded. The Rhine was breached, and Germany's last defensive line was broken. For their actions, the 507th earned a Presidential Unit Citation, recognition for extraordinary heroism in battle. When victory came in May 1945, the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment had fought in three of the most pivotal airborne operations of the war: Normandy, the Ardennes, and the Rhine. They had endured misdrops, isolation, and brutal combat, yet never failed their mission. The regiment's record was marked by courage and sacrifice, over 2,000 casualties, a Presidential Unit Citation, and citations from both the French and Belgian governments. Their legacy lives on in the Airborne Creed, that paratroopers fight where others cannot, and stand where others fall. From the dark skies over Normandy to the bright spring fields along the Rhine, the 507th jumped into history and never looked back.